and I happened to be nearby when a kid managed to get into a room in the house and jump and got killed. Jumped 3 floors, got killed.
Often, West German onlookers helped the escapees. Firemen produced rescue nets and saved the fleeing Easterners from injury or death on the cobblestones below. Before the wall went up, about 160 people were killed trying to escape to the west. After the wall, that number skyrockets. The first death at the wall is that of Rudolf Urban, who tries to lower himself to the ground through one of these border buildings. Urban falls and dies in Bernauerstrasse.
There were cases where we heard firing at night, and you went there, and then you could sometimes see what had happened, that somebody had tried to escape and had been shot as they tried to escape. It really got to be quite tragic.
By now, the first concrete slabs of the wall have fallen into place, and the buildings the jumpers used are completely sealed. Using routes only recently revealed, those seeking to escape will have to be much more clever or much more courageous. They will seek out the secret ways to the west, or they will boldly confront the wall itself. After the 1953 riots in East Germany, the communists work hard at building the perfect police state. And then, in August of 1961, they put a wall around it. At first, it is only barbed wire and guards, but soon it seems as if the wall will stand forever.
I think the reality took a while to sink in. People didn't realize it was going to be 12 feet, 2 feet thick. You wouldn't be able to get out. It was absolutely permanent. I think the feeling of a permanent barrier was not quite there, in mid-August. But by September, of course, it was something that was setting in a major fashion. There was a period in October when it was our tanks protecting our officials who were going in, and their tanks protecting their officials.
It is October 1961. The issue that nearly starts World War III is the free transit to the east of American officials. The East German border guards insist on examining American passports, and the Americans insist that they travel unmolested. The American military backs them up with jeeps and tanks. And soon, the Soviets bring 10 of their tanks into the city to face off against the 10 American Patton tanks at Checkpoint Charlie.
Die Konfrontation am Checkpoint Charlie.
The confrontation at Checkpoint Charlie is really one of the most dangerous moments of the Cold War. The world risks nuclear war with that confrontation. Never before have the two superpowers faced off against each other directly. Never before have Soviet and US troops leveled guns at each other. The tension is almost unbearable.
I stood there on that point at Checkpoint Charlie and looked at Soviet and American tanks 100 yards from each other, muzzle to muzzle. But I looked at that and I said, this is a picture of how World War III will start.
When it comes right down to it, neither side is willing to push the conflict. In secret negotiations, diplomats arrange an exit for both sides. The standoff ends when the Americans agree not to travel east, and the Soviets agree to pull their tanks out of the city. August 17, 1962. Following a friend in a sprint across a blind spot in the defenses, young East German construction worker Peter Fechter is spotted at the base of the wall. He begins to scale it, and the guards open fire.
Why would people run across to try to be free, knowing that they would be gunned down by the East German police in that no man's land?
Hundreds of spectators on both sides of the wall are watching the drama as the young man lay dying. West Berliners can't reach him. The Vopos on the eastern side are terrified that they will be shot by the Americans.
One of them shot and left to bleed to death, and then pulled back, a symbol to others seeking freedom.
And so Peter Fechter dies at the foot of the Berlin Wall. West Berliners are angered by American inaction, and as a result, President John F. Kennedy works hard to support and inspire them.
There are many people in the world who really don't understand, or say they don't, what is the great issue between the free world and the communist world. Let them come to Berlin.
On the way up the stairs to get out on the balcony, he had asked his English-German interpreter, I'm not very good at languages, but what can I say in a few German words that they might like to hear?
All free men, wherever they may live, are citizens of Berlin. And therefore, as a free man, I take pride in the word, Ich bin ein Berliner.
Ich bin ein Berliner. I am a Berliner. And then they really went wild.
I think Kennedy, aside from the Cuban crisis, would probably regard that as one of the most tense periods during his administration.
People try to get out any way they can. East Germans run through checkpoints at high speed. In some cases, they steal buses or taxis. Sometimes they make it, and sometimes they die, hung up on barriers and shot by machine gun-toting Vopos. Secret East German plans reveal that barriers are staggered to keep people from driving straight through, and vertical bars are added to keep people from slipping under them. For a while, the network of sewers underneath Berlin serve as an escape route. The choked network of pipes offers an escape route for those who can stand the smell and the suffocating closeness of the ancient plumbing. It is a dangerous route, and it soon becomes an impossible one. The East Germans methodically cut off all access points to the underground passages. Water is also an escape route, but a difficult one. Patrol boats run along the River Spree. At the age of 18, East German citizen Brigitte Temple escapes by water.
It brings you up. The water brings you up, so I had to know how to keep myself down. And all of a sudden, I felt things flying around me, so they detected me in the water, and I didn't realize I was getting shot. They did not shoot my spine, but they shot my legs 3 times.
Brigitte was one of the lucky ones.
The British police, the MPs, were on the other side. When I'm coming out there in my underpanties and a bra, and a blouse, one said, what kind of mermaid do they have here? And I just collapsed.
Every time a new escape route is found, the East develops a countermeasure. In all, the wall is completely overhauled and rebuilt 4 times during the Cold War.
Most people think that the Berlin Wall was just a concrete wall. In fact, in some places, it was a 200-yard wide, perfect killing machine. In 1961, it was mostly barbed wire and cinder blocks. Later on, the wall consisted of other barriers, such as steel stakes known as Stalin's graphs, to catch and impale running escapees. By the 70s, bunkers appeared, manned by guards, with direct orders to kill escapees. Next came a rail to which are attached hundreds of attack dogs, and then a heavily mined strip of white sand to show the tracks of escapees. Extremely bright lights illuminated vehicle traps and anti-tank ditches day and night.
Just beyond the lights is a special roadway constructed to carry ultra-quiet military cars that have been outfitted to run as silently as possible. And then an alarmed, electrified fence. Assuming he makes it that far, the fugitive faces a final concrete wall on the western side that stands between 11 and 14 feet tall. At the top of that wall is a specially constructed asbestos tube, too slippery to grasp either with hands or a grapple hook.
The wall was painted bright white, and thereby providing the best possible target for the snipers and the guards on the eastern side.
In the spring of 1989, after almost 30 years of killing fugitives, the East German government orders guards to stop shooting at escapees. Recently revealed Stasi documents show the automatic guns on tripwires are quietly disassembled. The terror of the killing zone begins to fade. The wall still stands, but it trembles before the winds of change. Decades of construction and diabolical design will be undone by one man's colossal and shocking blunder. It is 1989, and the East German border has claimed almost 1,000 lives. No one knows how many people have been caught, imprisoned, and executed for trying to escape the communist workers' paradise of the German Democratic Republic. By far, the deadliest stretch of the GDR border is the Berlin Wall. But in 1989, there are signs that the end is near for the Iron Curtain.
When you think back, it should have been, I suppose, understandable when you give consideration to Gorbachev's visit to East Berlin, where he said the policy for the GDR will be made not in Moscow but in Berlin. That was a clear renunciation of the use of force to keep the Soviet Empire together.
Still, the fearsome Berlin Wall stands. The Soviets, under President Mikhail Gorbachev, are backing away ever so slowly, and a power vacuum is created. The East German government is headed by Egon Krenz, and until now, nobody in the West has understood how and why this government doomed the wall to collapse.
It was just a time that everybody knew was a time of great change in Eastern Europe, but nobody knew just when and how things would evolve in East Germany, which was the key.
November 9th, 1989. A momentous meeting is taking place. The Communist Central Committee is trying to find a way to stop people from fleeing west. Lift travel restrictions, but only so much. That is the answer. Citizens of East Germany will be allowed to permanently emigrate without stating a reason, but they will need to obtain a passport and then a visa. The policy is to go into effect immediately. Overnight, border personnel will be briefed on the change. Communist Party leader Günter Schabowski holds a press conference that evening.
Günter Schabowski comes. He was, as I remember, the party boss of East Berlin. And he droned on and on and on and on, talking for almost an hour, and then finally somebody asked a question that was on everybody's mind. Well, what about the wall?
Although nobody in the room knows it, not even Schabowski himself, the Cold War is about to end. The biggest secret of all is that the wall will fall because of a mistake. One slip of the tongue and the deadly symbol of the longest war of the 20th century will topple. Reading from hastily scribbled notes, Schabowski casually mentions that travel restrictions have been lifted. He seems unaware that he is not supposed to announce the policy until after border personnel have a chance to figure out how to make it work. Schabowski gets the announcement wrong, disastrously wrong.
As I was writing this down, the hairs stood up on the back of my neck, and I realized that I was in the middle of the biggest story of my lifetime.
Today, as far as I know, a decision has been made. We have decided to adopt a regulation which enables every citizen of the GDR to leave the country by way of the GDR border crossings.
The shock in the room is plain. Schabowski has just knocked a giant hole in the wall. The repercussions will be felt around the world. The Associated Press is the first to hit the wires with the scoop. East Germans, as they hear this on the news, start to clog the checkpoints. The guards and border workers on duty that evening in November are overwhelmed as the crowds gather, but they don't have any idea what to do. Schabowski's timing could not have been worse. In the West, the word spreads quickly.
I did not want to overplay the hand of the United States of America. I did not want at that critical moment for us to gloat, to stick my fingers in Mr. Gorbachev's eyes, which would have been the worst thing you could possibly do.
For the first time on camera, the General Secretary of East Germany, Egon Krenz, speaks about the botched announcement.
I had to decide, should we close the border crossings so tight nobody can cross, which would have meant tanks, or should we let it run its course and open the borders? For that, there was no written order or any preparation or the border patrol, which makes the situation seem chaotic.
The East German army goes on alert and invokes a state of increased combat readiness. It's midnight in Moscow.